I'm Tom from Do It Yourself Home Automation, and this is a look at choosing the ideal water temperature for your home's hot water. Now, basically, when you're choosing this, there's a bunch of different trade offs that you're taking into account, and I'm going to go over some of them and also some official recommendations so you can decide what your own temperature should be. And generally, you want the range to be somewhere between 110 and 140 degrees Fahrenheit. And again, there's a lot of considerations for where you should fall in that range. So most water heaters come factory set at 140 degrees. And there's some advantages of this. It's a pretty energy efficient setting. If you have a dishwasher that can't heat the water in your home to a higher temperature, 140 degrees is high enough to kill any bacteria that would be on those dishes even without additional heating in the dishwasher. So that's usually why they set these by default to that temperature. The problem with 140 degrees is that it does create a scalding hazard. So if you put your hand under that hot water for even a few seconds, you can actually suffer a burn. So if you have elderly people or young children in the house, or if you're just concerned about a scalding risk, then 140 degrees is going to really raise that risk and is probably going to be too hot for you. Then on the other side of the spectrum, 110 degrees is much safer in terms of burns. You can still burn yourself with 110 degree water, but you'd have to hold your hand under the hot water for a longer time period to do that. So 110 degrees is definitely safer. If you have children, maybe they turn the hot on full and put their hand under for a second, they can probably get it out of the water before they end up suffering a burn. So that's definitely safer from that perspective. The danger, though, is that when you're that low, 110 degrees, there's some bacteria and things that can still survive in that hot water. So if it's sitting for a long time, you have a higher risk of getting bacteria in there. And also, it won't work as well in your dishwasher or in your clothing washer to actually sterilize things, basically. So if you have a dishwasher that can heat the water up itself, it will probably get it to a higher temperature where it will safely kill bacteria, but it's probably going to be using a less efficient heater, so you're going to lose some efficiency with 110 degrees. And again, there is some risk with that if it's sitting for a long time, you could actually get bacteria growing in the water, which obviously you don't want to have. That said, though, again, if you have an elderly person, you're setting the temperature for them, or you have younger children in the house, you may consider 110 degrees to have that lower risk of burns, although not eliminated risk. So that means what's in the middle. For some reason, people rarely choose 130 degrees. The sort of next middle set point is 120. And that's actually the Department of Energy in the United States. That's their recommendation for the ideal temperature for your hot water. And it does a good job of striking a balance between better cleaning efficiency. It's hot enough that you're much less likely to get bacterial growth in the water, but it's also, cold enough that it won't instantly scald you. You definitely have a higher risk of scalding. You want to be careful. You always, of course, want to, test the water and not just step into a bathtub or step right into a shower or anything. But it is a good trade-off, they say, between the risk of scalding and also the risk of bacterial growth, and it's also a very energy efficient setting. So setting the temperature lower, around 110, you can probably save about 5 to 10% on the cost of hot water over the year because you're not having to heat the water as much throughout the year. 140, you're going to pay a little bit more for the heating. 120 is a good balance in terms of efficiency, balanced scalding risk if you don't have young people or elderly people in the house, and pretty good cleaning efficiency. A couple special things you want to keep in mind, though. If your dishwasher doesn't heat the water, you probably do want to be around 140 just for food safety to make sure that everything is getting totally clean inside the dishwasher. And also, they recommend if you have an immunocompromised person in the house, to make sure that you do have a higher temperature setting. And that's because when you do laundry, you want to make sure that the water in the laundry machine is hot enough that it kills any bacteria, so you're not exposing anyone with an immunocompromised situation to any kind of bacteria that wouldn't be killed by the wash cycle. One final consideration is just how many people you have in your house. If If you have a higher temperature setting on your hot water, then you can do more, showering and bathing and running the dishwasher at the same time, and you won't run out of hot water as easily. So if you find you're always running out of hot water, maybe you actually have the water set on too low of a setting for your home. With hotter water, you're balancing that with more cold, and then the capacity of your hot water tank is going to last longer because you're having to use less hot water mixed with your cold water to get to your desired temperature for a shower or a bath, or to run your dishwasher or washing machine. And again, the Department of Energy recommends 120 degrees. It's a pretty good setting for most families. If you have a very large family, again, you might need to go higher in order to have enough hot water. And if you're a single person or you have a small family or don't do very long showers, you may be able to get away with a lower temperature, which again will be more energy efficient. So those are some considerations to take into account. In order to actually set the temperature, most hot water heaters, unless it's a tankless unit, don't allow you to set the temperature directly. So you're basically adjusting this knob, and usually the lowest setting is going to be like 100 degrees, and the highest is going to be maybe 160, which it says is very hot. So you definitely don't want to be there. And really the best way to set this is just to kind of slowly make adjustments, wait about 12 hours, and then use a multimeter or just a normal thermometer to take the temperature of the water at your tap after it's been flowing for a couple of minutes. See where you are relative to your desired temperature, make adjustments, and dial it in. I use 120 degrees. I find that's a good balance. I get plenty of hot water. The cleaning efficiency is good. The energy efficiency is good. And I find it's a pretty balanced risk of scalding. But again, it's really up to you to make the decision, and keep in mind that with any water temperature, there is the potential for burns after a long enough time period. So, always be careful with that. And you can see that's, spelled out for you right here on your water heater usually. There is always a scalding risk with hot water, so just be aware and be careful. So those are some considerations. If you found this helpful in any way, please subscribe to my channel. It really helps.